Hello bookworms, I'm Hannah and I'm changing the lighting setup in my next few videos because I started recording a few minutes ago and one of my light bulbs exploded. Burning hot glass went raining down and set the carpet on fire. That was terrifying. I'm trembling right now, but I have a lot of work to do today, so I'm going to soldier on and get through this video. Today is my first dedicated review of a 2018 Women's Prize longlist book. I'll be giving a brief synopsis, introducing the characters, and discussing the book's strengths and weaknesses. As usual, I'll avoid dropping any major spoilers, and I'll do my best to correctly pronounce the characters' names, but if I get any wrong, I hope you'll forgive me. Today I'm reviewing A Boy in Winter by Rachel Seiffert. This is Seiffert's fifth novel. Her debut novel, The Dark Room, was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2001, and her third novel, Afterwards, was longlisted for the Women's Prize in 2007, back when it was known as the Orange Prize for Fiction. A Boy in Winter is historical fiction set during the German invasion of Ukraine in 1941. Though the synopsis suggests the book will follow 4 characters, it actually jumps around to 6, technically 7 different characters. Right now, some of you are thinking, wait a minute, 6 characters in a book that's not even 240 pages long? Is it even possible to feel invested in so many characters in so few pages? The answer to that question is no. Let's start at the beginning. This year's Women's Prize longlist left me feeling deflated. I posted a candid longlist reaction video. If you missed that, I'll link to it in the description box. When determining which books from the longlist to read, A Boy in Winter caught my eye because its opening pages give an immediate sense of atmosphere and peril and reveal a unique linguistic style. Seiffert demonstrates a quirky dependency on semicolons and colons, which, to be frank, my eyes were tripping over throughout the book, and her writing oscillates between short, jagged sentences and long, flowing sentences laden with commas. We open on the hushed streets of a small Ukrainian town where the air is damp with fog. A young boy and his little brother are running through the empty cobbled streets in search of a place to hide. The eponymous boy is the oldest, 13-year-old Yankel, a Jewish boy prone to daydreaming who prefers afternoons spent in long grass along the riverbanks or wading in the shallows. He's a brave and nurturing older brother who often whittles sticks into figurines for his younger brother Momik. We're then introduced to a German engineer named Otto who's woken by the sound of slamming doors outside his boarding house window. In the last few days, he's witnessed the arrival of SS jeeps, then the order police, and now the streets are filling with the gray uniformed Wehrmacht. We get a sense of Otto's character and his view of the war through inward conversations he has with his beloved wife. Otto is implacably opposed to his countrymen's behavior, but keeps his thoughts safely in his head because the letters he writes home to his wife are monitored by German soldiers. We next meet my favorite character in the book, a 17-year-old Ukrainian farm girl named Yesia. Her introduction is accompanied by a wailing siren and the crack of a German voice over a loudspeaker announcing in Ukrainian that a curfew is in effect until further notice. Through Yesia's conversations with her father, we're reminded of Stalin's brutal reign, and we learn that she's resentful of the war because her sweetheart, Mikola, has been gone fighting for the Red Army. Were it not for the war, she would be married by now and happily cradling a plump baby. Finally, we're introduced to Yankel's father, Ephraim. He, his wife, and his youngest daughter have been herded like animals, along with hundreds of other Jews, to an old brick factory where he waits anxiously for news of Yankel and Momik. It's through Ephraim's wandering thoughts that we learn more about Yankel's character and how it's been difficult for Ephraim in recent years to convince his son to focus on learning when all Yankel wants to do is play outside. We also, in brief stints, follow a schoolmaster, Mikola, who's told that his service in the Red Army will be forgiven if he'll fight for the Germans, and Arnold, a military superior with whom Otto occasionally confers. By weaving these characters as stories together, Seiffert attempts to explore, and I'm quoting the book jacket here, the compromises demanded by survival, the oppressive power of fear, and the possibility of courage in the face of terror. 2 important questions arise when considering this book. 1, does Seiffert succeed in honoring what the book jacket promises? I think the answer is yes, but the execution is weak. And 2, can this book compete with the pantheon of Holocaust literature that already exists? I think the answer is no. Before I explain why, let me first touch on the aspects of the book I enjoyed. Seiffert's prose regularly transports us from one scene to the next. When following Yankel, we feel the dampness of the fog around us. Yesia cuts into an apple to reveal its pale flesh, and suddenly we're craving the sweetness of apples. Ephraim is pressed and pushed in the crowded factory. His back aches, his joints stiffen, and we shift our weight from foot to foot right alongside him. Most of these characters don't know one another at the start of the book, so they're ignorant of how connected they are. They're not concerned with one another's welfare until their paths physically cross. It feels long in coming, which is funny given how short this book is, but some of the most thrilling moments in the book occur when these characters finally collide. My favorite moment is shared between Yesia, Yankel, and Momek. It's the only scene in the entire book where I was quietly spellbound. The boys are hiding in a workshop, and Yesia offers them 2 deviled eggs. The small one edges towards her shyly, reaching for the food. One hand still full of his new toy, he has to give it to Yesia to make room, and she takes it from him gently, pressing an egg into each of his palms in exchange. Such fine little digits. She likes to see them gripped like that, to see all the neatness of his small child's movements. An egg makes a good warm fistful, she thinks, watching his fingers closing around the soft ovals as he returns to his brother's side. The small boy slips onto his brother's knee to eat, and, watching him there, Yesia feels the emptiness of her own lap. Nothing but her own hands to rest there, and even they have nothing to hold in them. That is such a powerful scene that conveys the heightened appreciation amid war times of life's sweet simplicities, things we normally take for granted. A warm haven, a shared meal, a bite of food. It's a precious moment that illuminates the frailty and innocence of children. It articulates Yesia's unmet desires and how this war has prohibited her from assuming the identity she longs for of wife and mother. And Seiffert's choice to use an egg, a symbol of life, and in Jewish tradition, a symbol of a promise, is brilliant. The magnitude of that moment is what I anticipated from this entire book. Unfortunately, it's the only scene with such depth and gravity, a rare instance where this book's potential shines through. One of my problems with this book is that I never had a clear sense of time because Seiffert is constantly bouncing to different characters and pausing mid-thought to give backstory. The book jacket makes a point of emphasizing that everything in this book transpires over the course of 3 days, which is conceptually alarming given how many lives are affected or ruined in such a short period of time. Without that clear sense of time, the severity of what happens is slightly diminished. And I think this is a symptom of Seiffert adding more characters during the writing process and then struggling to juggle them in so few pages. Had Seiffert decided to focus on 1, possibly 2 characters, this would have been a more emotionally fraught, memorable read. My vote is for Yankel and Yesia. With Yankel, we see the war through the eyes of a vulnerable Jewish boy. We experience hunger, fear, uncertainty about family, and the responsibility of protecting a little brother. His options are be captured by the Germans, hide and starve, or take a chance on a stranger, which could prove a fatal decision. With Yesia, we see a woman worried her lover will die in battle. We're privy to her dashed dreams and her longing for motherhood. She's beautiful, and the German soldiers often notice that, so there's this lingering concern that she could be raped. Her neighbors are aware of what's happening to the Jews, but they're not concerned because they've adopted an attitude of, well, at least it's not happening to me, which brings to mind Martin Niemöller's poem. And her decision to interact with 2 Jewish boys is exceedingly dangerous. I also took issue with how Seiffert handles the mass graves. She mentions soldiers rounding up hundreds of Jews and stripping them of their clothing. She writes of newly dug soil and heaps of tangled limbs, but she never specifically states that German soldiers lined up Jewish men, women, and children in front of gaping graves and shot them. When the moment comes to fire the guns, she breaks the scene. I spent a fair amount of time wondering why. Why doesn't she finish that scene? I'm having a hard time talking about this. Sometimes the unspoken is more powerful. Maybe by not stating what happened, she's implying that those acts were unspeakable. But I also wondered if she simply shied away from the challenge of conveying the humiliation and horror of those last moments. When future generations pick up this book and World War II is as distant as the Civil War or the War of Independence is to us, I think people will be able to intuit what happened in that scene, but I don't think it's weighty enough to adequately convey the humiliation and terror. My opinion of this book is on par with another long list title, Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi. A Boy in Winter is not a bad book. It's not a great book either. It strikes me as an okay addition to this year's long list. I wouldn't tell you not to read it, but I definitely expected more from it. If you decide to give it a chance, expect a quick read that flits around to myriad characters and touches on several aspects of World War II, but stubbornly refuses to dig deep. If you've already read the book, what did you think of it? Tell me your thoughts and reactions in the comments. Thanks, everybody!